Chapter 2. Captain, why have you taken off your pulse watch? I'm having a hard time reaching you without it. You should put it on, Thalia said. Her voice could be heard now throughout the ship. Are you there, Captain? That was the voice of Lieutenant Commander McMasters, a man 10 years Dorian's senior. At 40, McMasters had served under many captains, but not one as young as Dorian. He respected him and taught him, but Dorian taught McMasters as much. Jessie sat up in the bed and looked around. Then she glanced down at Dorian, still sleeping, and unaware that there was a commotion going on inside the ship. Charles, wake up. She pushed him and pulled him, but it was as if he was dead. She frantically checked his pulse. Wake up, Charles. The ship needs you. I need you. I love you. Her sweet, soft, mellow voice whispering in his ear. And the last word she said must have been what woke him from his dead sleep. His eyes opened and he smiled at her, and then the alarms shrieked overhead, and mixed with the alarms were the calming sound of Thalia's voice. We have a serious breach in the engineer room. Wake up, Captain. What the hell is going on? Why didn't you wake me, Jessie? He said in a strong tone as he rose from the bed and jumped to the floor, reaching and pulling up his one-piece uniform, forgetting to put on his standard-issued shorts, which hugged his amazing body, and made him look like a poster hunk for one of those intergalactic ads focused on women who the enlistment space program needed. The ads promised them a place to find excitement, love, and romance aboard a traveling space station. I tried to wake you, she said, her voice frantic as she slipped naked into her blue one-piece uniform. But you wouldn't budge. Her eyes meeting his as she pulled the zipper up to her chest. She watched Dorian's eyes follow the zipper and stop at her full chest. Where are you going? Dorian asked, his voice not cold but not warm either. With you, of course. You will only be a distraction. I knew I shouldn't have slept with a member of my crew, Dorian said, breathless, taking time to brush his teeth and comb his dark short hair in a short regimental military cut. His long legs strode to the door, but then he paused and looked back at Jessie. I don't want anyone to see you coming out of my quarters. He took in a large breath and straightened his head up. It wasn't his intentions to hurt Jessie with his tough words, but there was more to be concerned about than her hurt feelings. There was the matter of the ship and the 1,000 crew members aboard. Jessie stood watching him with a confused look on her face. Before he fell asleep, and during their lovemaking, he had professed how much he wanted her and needed her beside him. She knew at first he didn't return her advances. It had been 5 years, and neither one had slept with anyone aboard the spaceship. But he couldn't hold out one more day. Not one more hour. It was as if he would erupt from all the desire he held for her. When on his way to his cabin after putting in too many hours yesterday, and after being up 48 hours, a switch went off when he passed her in the office's quarters. He stood in one place, and when she passed he grabbed her hand and she turned around, and no words passed between the two of them. He had seen this happen on his ship before with women and men because of close contact, and that seemed to be the thing to do. He had very little experience dealing with females. Oh, he had dates, but they knew score. It would be one night, but if he needed them for more, they were eager, and then they were forgotten. Just another face and body among many, and if he didn't acknowledge them, that would be the end of the relationship. Some of the men slept with 2 females, but with all the different females aboard, Dorian had little or no interest in them since he set eyes on Jessie. The females, some human and others not so human, came from all over the cosmos, but it didn't matter to the sex-starved males aboard the vessel. The males, like the females, were from Earth and some from neighboring planets, and the recruitment ads made it seem as if it was a paradise for females and especially the males, but more so for the males because they were outnumbered 2 to 1. But with Dorian, his eyes now was for only one. The ship would balloon with female recruits. The star splitter was teeming with the female species, and men buzzed them like bees on a young flower. There were always more women who fell for these ads of good-looking hunks in uniforms, and they would join, and sometimes it didn't work out, and they would leave and settle on a nearby planet like Ovid, where males and females were evenly balanced in population. It was great for the men, but a problem for Captain Dorian. He didn't want his men and women to forget about their duties with the distraction of sex, and that's why he would give them time off for extracurricular activities. The women would be able to find more men or aliens they may want to marry or have as companions from different universes, and that would cut down on the disagreements that would break out occasionally and would relieve the tension of the women having to share the small pool of men. Marriage became common for some of them, but Jessie had always been a constant with him. She knew he would never marry her, and not because he was already married, but because he agreed to stay with the ship until they could train men who would be willing to give up everything for their home planets to make the universe safe. Once the men were contracted to the space splitter, they would never be able to go home. The females were given more leeway. Very few males or females were willing to sacrifice their lives for the good of the Earth, their home, and humanity of any kind, but his crew did. Dorian's crew were special, and they deserved a special captain, he thought. Before Dorian could open the door and depart his room, a loud voice in panic mode came from the once calm, once quiet, and once serene voice of Thalia. "You have to abandon ship. You have to abandon ship now. Go to your pods. Only the officers can stay. Go to your pods. You are needed on the bridge, Captain Dorian. If you hear me, you are needed on the bridge." "Oh my God," Dorian said before a loud boom hit the ship and threw him against the entrance. He held on to the walls as he turned to see if Jessie had been hurt. Then a flash of light rocked the ship, knocking him against the wall. Jessie looked to Dorian calm and said, "It's a lightning storm generated from a planet's atmosphere." But how could that happen? Dorian wondered. And how did Jessie know? The ship's computer had been plotted away from any planets that could interrupt the ship's course and send it into another orbit, he thought.